It's showtime.
Okay, Tokyo, South America, Australia, France, Germany, UK,
Here we go. Head On with Bob Kincaid. 3 hours of conversation, cussin' and a discussin' with America's only born and bred Southern liberal talk host. Head On with Bob Kincaid is brought to you each night by Coal River Mountain Watch. Coal River Mountain Watch invites you to become part of the solution, part of a sustainable future, part of the uprising against mountaintop removal. Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. And now, from high in the hills of beautiful West Bicod, Virginia, here's Bob Kincaid on the Head On Radio Network.
Well, howdy. Yes, indeed, it's another live program on the Horn. Headon.live is where you'll find us on the interweb tubes. You've got easy, handy-dandy access to all the podcasting platforms, access to the live stream itself, and if you should choose to avail yourself of it, the chat room. Click on chat room, pick out a screen name and a password, and by Jove, you'll find yourself in the midst of the amazing, wacky, zany, real-time, multimedia extravaganza that is the chat room during the 3 hours in which this program is live, 3 to 6 p.m. Pacific and 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. You will, of course, be capably moderated by longtime indefatigable veteran chat room moderator Sparky, who, exhibiting the discretion is the better part of valor, has decided, although he is a third stage guild navigator, well, he's decided not to fold space, and he's content to be Sparky this evening. Squeaky's already in the room. I'm sure more will be wandering along presently. And you will be warmly greeted by each and all, or perhaps you, arriving early, will warmly greet others if you choose to wander on in. Hi, I'm Bob Kincaid. It's Thorn-in-the-Side Thursday. It's hot, and it's a bearable 81 degrees here in the fabulous Horn Studios at the magnificent Kincaid Mansion. And we've got 3 hours of conversation ahead of us, and Lord only knows where it's going to take us. I can tell already that, Sparky's waiting for the UPS man. Good deal. Probably he doesn't deliver to the man cave, just to the right. I got to figure out a way to put the now that all the travel and stuff is behind us. I got to figure out a way to put the new little gizmo in here, because I've noticed over the last few nights that audio on this channel and others is I don't think the board's long for this world. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Thorn-in-the-Side Thursday. And this program, like every other, begins with gratitude, because it is our subscribers who take care of about a quarter of the Horn funding over the course of a month. So thanks go out very kindly to Charlene in Rogues Island, a charter member of the Sorority of Leans and a charter member of Queen Tracy's Reverse Oreo Society. Also to Stephen, thank you very kindly, and to Grace as well. Thank you ever so much indeed for being part of the happy little not quite 100 who keep all of this going, or a quarter of this going. Thank you very much indeed. Where are we for fundraising? It would be nice to mention this and just have done with it, but probably not going to happen. Got 2 big bills remaining in the month, and we are at $555. That would be a deficit of $355 plus $200 for this evening. We'll have $200 tomorrow, and then if we can just keep up with it all, we've only got if we're done with fundraising by Wednesday of next week, then we've got an entire week of fundraising free radio, which is the part of the month that I tend to look forward to most, because there's just no mention of it, and we go about the business of doing the program as if we had lots of sponsors and they didn't want us to run ads. Yeah. So we're at 5:55, and if we could take that down, it would be tremendously helpful. All the ways to contribute are over there under the Contribute tab, and in fact, even the mailing address, should you prefer to participate via the U.S. Postal Service, sent to the right, and then that gets a stamp and it goes to the right. Yeah, 5:55. That doesn't even make for good long division. That would be 11 people at $55.50, right? I don't know. Me, math, ciphering, not so good. But we've got to go. By now, I assume you have heard at least 13,000 times and seen the clip from last night's rally in North Carolina of the assembled maggots chanting, "Send her back, send her back." We'll probably talk about that at some length during the program. I like it when we get the program started, though, with comments from the community. Note coming in from Kyle, whom we heard from last night. This is a bit of a rhetorical question, but I thought you might be able to provide some insight and a decent answer. Well, and depending on what the subject matter is that will determine the decency, I think. In light of my maggot father saying that news is fake and exaggerated because the man on the Weather Channel done talked about how hot it is and it's always hot in the summer. No, really, this was his rationale, but at least he wasn't screaming about the fake dossier witch hunt coup this time, which makes me wonder if it's radio silence over at Fox about it. But my question is this. Are people stupid because they're Republicans? Or are they Republicans because they're fucking stupid? That's what you call a paradox, I think. If a tree falls in the forest and there's not a woman there, will Donald Trump still grab her by the... Do you understand? At least, Kyle, you're on the road to wisdom because you're asking about Republicans and not Trump supporters. Because the modern Republican Party is the source of the vast majority of all the ills that this country faces. And by modern Republican Party, I mean, since January the 20th, 1981. Or maybe if we want to be a little more nuanced, that day in August of 1980, when Ronald Wilson Reagan, old 666 himself, sent a great big dog whistle that could be heard by even the deaf dogs when he opened his campaign at the Neshoba County, Mississippi Fairgrounds, just scant miles from where three young people were murdered by the Klan and buried in an earthen dam. Yeah, Reagan sent a message that day, and the people that were supposed to hear it damned well heard it. And to this day, it's funny how the people who think that Reagan was some moment of greatness in this country's history forget that. They forget the Neshoba County Fairgrounds. But it's a Republican problem, because Republicans are authoritarians, and authoritarians do what they're told. Right down to learning, and it had to be a challenge for them. They are, after all, the maggots, too. Right down to being taught to and then following orders and chanting, send her back," last night in North Carolina. Among other things, watching the for-profit media today, the multimillionaire for-profit media, most of them acted as though it were some sort of spontaneous, organic event that happened when they began their chanting. But it wasn't. Laura Trump, the wife of Butthead Trump, Eric, or is he Beavis? See, confusing. Warmed the crowd up and even went so far as to get them chanting in advance. To the credit of Chris Hayes, he pointed this out on Twitter earlier, that she was part of the warm-up act and had him chanting and screaming and done to a tender turn before he ever came to the stage. We'll get into it later. I got another note that I want to share with you. This is nothing if not a brilliant piece of contemplative writing, and it comes to us from Lady B. And if I had prizes to award or anything like that, I would see that Lady B got one for this. I love this kind of correspondence because it, and I'm sharing it with you verbally because I don't think it's out there online anywhere for me to direct you to go and read it for yourself. This is a note that Lady B sent to me for sharing with you. Lady B writes, I'm naive, not as well immersed in the nature of reality outside my bubble. Even though I consider myself well-educated, I've never lived a life beyond blue collar. My life has been a mixture of mental illness, low self-esteem, and a little racism in my profession thrown in for good measure. And even though I've always been aware there were better things, and I've had a few glimpses of it, it never occurred in just how different that world must be. From what I can gather of it, it's mostly filled with folks who can make car payments on a car they actually wanted, instead of just a clunker that belonged to a friend or one they bought off Craigslist. They live in decent neighborhoods where the homes have more than one bathroom. They have garages. Their kids have clean clothes because both the washer and the dryer work. And dinner time, although not always at the table, usually consists of food that the kids will eat, stuff that has at least one vegetable. You know, food that won't make them fat and dumb. Mind dreamily wanders. It's a 4-person household. There's mom, dad, son, daughter. Both sets of grandparents are still alive. Their daughter has everything she needs to enjoy being a girl or a teen, and she has her own room, and she doesn't have to sleep with her door locked at night. These folks figure they're doing okay. They're living a small part of the American dream. They're hard-working and busy, and the little time they do have for leisure is best spent on family and friends and having fun. News, especially bad news, is an unnecessary and depressing distraction. Give them the weather, the traffic for tomorrow, and make them aware of any lurking neighborhood predators. Anything bigger than that, anything more nuanced than that it's too much. Asking them to be concerned about anything outside the bubble is not only wasting their time, it's also unfair. Of course, they know something's up. When they do have time for the news, it's showing black folks protesting, a criminal being shot, and Hispanic immigrants living in cages. It's bad, but it's only a small part of what living in America is all about. It'll all blow over. Stop focusing on the negative things. The economy is good. The stock market is at its highest level ever. And Dad got an amazing raise this year. His boss even had a cookout at Rainbow Falls. Yes, Dad's had more than one beer after supper lately and drinks much more over the weekend. And Mom's been hitting her vape pen, however discreetly, a lot more. Jimmy's been listening to some really hardcore rap songs, but he's young and embracing diversity. And Caitlin isn't eating as much as she used to, but she's 14, and she's body conscious like all girls that age are. Or maybe it's her time of the month. It's all new to her. She'll get used to it. There's something going on, but they can't put their finger on it. Sure, they've heard about Trump and his usual diarrhea of the mouth, but hey, that's just him. He's a clown. Granddad voted for him, but he watches Fox News all day. Dad voted for him, but only because the landscaping company he works for was finding less work, and there were a lot of non-English speaking folks seeming to get a few more assignments. But now that Trump's cracking down on illegal immigration, things are better. And since his boss got a tax cut, he's able to give out more gift cards and days off. It's not as if Dad hates immigrants. They're free to apply for citizenship, but they have to go through the legal channels first. That and learning to speak English, and Dad would be happy to work with them. They're good hard workers. As far as Mom is concerned, it's a little distressing, but nothing to spend a day worrying about. Don't tell Dad, but Mom didn't pull the lever for the current president. She didn't mind that a female was running. It was exciting, actually. But in the end, Hillary was too shrill and complained too much. And everybody knows her husband did her wrong, yet she stayed. If it had been Mom, she would have kicked her husband to the curb, as the kids say. But thank God Dad isn't like that. Like her parents, her marriage was meant to last. Until death do they part. Trump, he was a clown who hosted a reality show. He got his start in professional wrestling. There was no way he was going to win. So Hillary would be the logical choice, and she was going to win anyway, so Mom didn't vote for anyone. After all, there were millions of Americans voting. What difference did her one non-vote make? But the children in the cages, the little ones separated from their mothers, that kind of gets to her. And she guesses it was necessary. God knows what kind of crime and diseases those folks bring with them. But still, Mom smoked weed in college, and a little outside of it, but quit when the kids came around. But a couple of years ago, she took it up again. The edibles and the vape pen make it discreet. She tells her kids it's CBD oil, but Dad knows she's taken up the devil's lettuce again. He figures it's better than all that expensive anti-anxiety medicine the doctor gives her anyway. She's glad Colorado passed that law. She doesn't know how she'll feel if the kids take up smoking weed, but it helps her. He's drinking more on the weekends anyway and sneaking a couple late at night. There's anxiety in the air. She can't quite put her finger on it, but it's there. Politics. It's boring and divisive. She votes every 4 years, and as far as she's concerned, it's one and done. She loves her co-workers. Sandra's funny and a great cook. Maria gives sage advice about healing herbs and great Mexican restaurants. She doesn't know the Indian woman in accounting very well, but she's nice and speaks perfect English. Everyone gets along. Everyone is happy. Just let Trump serve out his term, and we'll vote him out, and you can be sure she'll vote this time. Maybe for Biden. But everyone needs to calm down. Just let him finish his term. The economy's good, damn it. Her husband's working. She's working. Her friends are working. Bills are being paid. Just a few more months and Trump's out, and with that, all the divisiveness with him. Babies in cages. She hits her vape pen. She doesn't know the strain, but it's a hybrid, 15% THC and mango-flavored, stronger than it ever was. She'll plan a potluck for the receptionist Abigail's 43rd birthday. She'll ask Sandra to make lasagna, and she'll pay for the ingredients. Sandra's having a bit of a time with that no-good husband of hers. Sandra's been married for 20 years. She didn't know black people had marriages that lasted that long. Trump will be voted out of office. Under Biden, things will go back to a semblance of normal. And everybody will like each other again. She's going to run to Safeway to see if they have those green olives Caitlin seems to like. And some Midol. Do they still sell that anymore? Caitlin needs to eat. They also sell full-strength beer now in supermarkets in Colorado, too. She'll buy some for hubby for the weekend, but keep it in the fridge in the garage so he won't drink more than one tonight. It's only Thursday, for God's sake. If she thought she heard Jimmy sing the N-word the other day, she'll have to remind him not to say that. No matter what. That would be taking embracing diversity too far. Even she was smart enough to know that. Lady B says, thanks for letting me write, Bob. Oh, no, thanks for writing, Lady B. That was magnificent. There's no reason I shouldn't submit. I don't know anymore. Too busy living in the past, I guess. Here's to a great show. Well, Lady B, you just got it off to a rockin' and rollicking start. I imagine there's a lot of people out there right now going, damn, that was something. Because that's what I said when I read it. Damn, that was something. Because there was a lot that I've never lived in a house with more than one bathroom. There is no washer and dryer here. Hell, there's no stove and no refrigerator bigger than an apartment model. And still, the coal-fired power bill runs when we're not running AC, like in the spring, when the AC's not on and the heat's been turned off, it's still $200 in a little 1,100 square foot house that's 80 plus years old. The car we're driving now has 180,000 miles on it. And we wound up having to get that when one of the pillheads rear-ended Agnes back on December the 31st, 2011. She realizes now that she got a hell of a head injury out of it. And so did the boy. The pillhead who hit her, well, he's where a lot of pillheads wind up. Dead. One of these days, maybe somehow or another, we'll fix this place from what was done to it. God, what was it? June 30th, July 1st, 2012, when the storm blew through, and we all learned that FEMA's not really that good for much. But the people who, Dave just sent a wow, Lady B. Yeah, here. I find myself, for me, getting out of the hills and hollers here in almost level West by Cold Trump Ginistan is, it seldom works out to be a vacation because it seems like there's always work involved. But I try to sort of mix in a little bit, at least an opportunity for a little bit of David Attenborough or Richard Attenborough style. I've got their voices running in the back of my head as I watch the people around me. It's like a documentary that I just happen to live in. And anything that happens here happens because there is sufficient cash money for it to happen. And that's because y'all keep this program going. Y'all made it possible for me to go and see and hear and listen and report back on what happened at Netroots Nation. But even that was a fascinating exercise. Because everybody there had paid somewhere probably north of $400 to be there. And that was before they paid for transportation, a plane in, plane out, before they paid for food while we were there. And as Todd observed, you can eat cheap you can eat cheap and good if you're paying attention. And you really try. It was a mostly younger crowd, which is encouraging if they will go out and encourage their, in turn, comrades and people that age group to vote. And if they go home and they're activists. In the course of looking for a hotel room, $175 a night seemed exorbitant to me. But on the hotel listings, mostly it was more like 300, 400, 600 a night. And to a hillbilly who is the child of a pair of Depression-era parents, the idea of dropping $600 on a hotel room? That's madness. Who's got that kind of scratch? I look at housing prices. And people say, wow, $600,000, that's a bargain. What the hell kind of a monthly payment is $600,000? And what do you have to do to have sufficient funds to make the monthly on that, plus the homeowners and a car payment and the insurance? Maybe I just don't understand. Maybe Lady B and me are kind of in the same place with that. But I think what Lady B was getting at is that we're all sort of mystified. None of us really understand how any of this works. And a whole crap ton of us are trying to put one foot in front of the other just to walk through the day and get to tomorrow. Preferably without having to get blasted out of our brains just to endure the journey. And I'll dare to speak for Lady B when I say it gets exhausting, wearying. I think of that first line from Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, and I'm paraphrasing. But it's something like all happy families are happy in the same way. But every unhappy family is unhappy differently. I've spent a lot of time scratching my head over that one, because it has the air of unfly-blown truth. And so I wonder about the lives lived in that crowd in North Carolina last night, who so eagerly, so gleefully chanted, "Send her back, send her back." And I wonder about the America they think they want to live in. You know, we had that clip last night from that neo-maxi Zoom dweeby Josh Bernstein, Stone, don't know, who implored on Bill Deagle's show, implored Donald Trump to become a dictator for patriotism. And how many in that crowd in North Carolina would have said, hell yeah, and quietly gone about the business of waving their Betsy Ross flag and their Confederate flag, one in each hand? Trouble is, when you got a dictator for patriotism, then the dictator defines the terms of what constitutes patriotism. And it can change moment by moment by moment. And one minute you're in, and the next minute you're not in. Or you're in something entirely different. And so that's the thorn in the side for this evening. We have a hard enough time being experts in our own lives. what are we to make of the nation writ large? Of a country that applauds chants of "send her back" about a woman who has been an American citizen longer than the First Lady of the United States, and who endured a hell of a lot more hardship, terror, fear, anxiety, and agony to become an American citizen. Now, if you go and you look at the video from that disgusting display last night, and you see the hand-picked crowd of white people back in behind the nitwit Nero, you'll see that when the "send her back" chant begins, a light goes on. And they realize it's time for them to do what they were taught to do in the warm-ups. And some begin chanting, "Send her back." Others, hearing it, begin to guffaw. And in a group like that, they're potentially homicidal. Rampage capable. But the problem is when they disperse and they go to their various homes and communities, well then they're just your neighbors. And they'll say howdy to you down to the shop and save. And you won't necessarily know that last night they were participating in something that can only be described as being one pointy hat away from a fucking Klan rally. One burning cross away. And you don't know where you live anymore. And you come sort of unmoored from your circumstances. Kyle writes, "Holy shit, that was amazing." Speaking of what Lady B sent. "I've not heard or read anything that better describes the Trump years and how so many families, even my own, in many ways have responded and reacted to them. That might as well be my family. Change the ages and names a little bit, and my stepmom hasn't ever smoked, but I digress. Thank you for writing, Lady B. Thank you." That $600,000 house, Steve from Georgia Stan says rule of thumb is to knock off 2 zeros. Example, a house that costs $600,000 will be $6,000 a month. Ron in Raleigh ran the numbers and said the monthly payment on a $600,000 mortgage at 4.5% interest fixed for 30 years is, brace yourself, $3,040.11 per month. It really is a bargain, ain't it? I bet for $600,000 in some places it's got more than one bathroom. Hell, it might even be it might even have a flush toilet. Or closets. I mean, okay, so doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, maybe they're knocking down. Okay, if it's $3,000 a month for the house, then you got to be bringing home after taxes around $9,000, or you're kind of fucked. And $9 600,000 times 12, that's $108,000 a year. And maybe on that you can get $600 hotel rooms when you go on vacation or some such. I don't know. It's an America with which I'm utterly unfamiliar. Steve in New York. Dictator for patriotism. I can't help but ask, what would these same people have said if any of us said that about Obama? Well, we didn't say that about Obama, but they called him a dictator nonetheless. And they said that he was the Messiah of the left. They called him Messiah a lot. They called him that other word, too, quite a bit. Then there's this that Governor Paul LePage said about Trump, Steve continues. Let me be very clear. I believe the President of the United States, Barack Obama, is a dictator. I think he has failed the American people. He has not worked with the Congress. And what he has done is he has used the executive office to put regulations on our country that's going to take us decades to get out of. LePage, who is an avid supporter of Donald Trump, called the Republican presidential nominee very powerful. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is a very powerful personality, and he has a very authoritative persona. David in South Carolina sends along an article from HuffPost. A fascist Trump rally in Greenville. David says, if you read all the way through this, you'll see exactly why I can't have political yard signs. A woman quoted in this article lives in Florence, South Carolina, and is a school teacher, or claims to be. That $600,000 place in Manhattan, according to Lee, is a condominium. Like I said, I can't fathom it. Now, there are places where $600,000 would get you something damn near approaching a mansion. But who wants to live where that would be the case, right? There's been a scam going on for generations now. If you, for instance, read Joe Bagent's Rainbow Pie, he talks about the displacement of rural America and the fact that rural America was driven to the cities out of communities where they had lived successfully, yea, verily, for generations. It is a manipulation so soft and so insidious that we never even feel it. We just feel the tug away from the land and toward the cities to the same extent that we feel the gravitational tug of the moon when the tides come in and go out. Darlene in Connecticut says, screw the idea of John McCain being some sort of maverick. Ilhan Omar is the true maverick, and that term really doesn't even encapsulate what she has achieved nor her immense bravery. Hell, I'm all in for send her back chant for melanoma. How about that? I feel an idiom coming on. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah. Of course, our side doesn't do that shit. One, melanoma is never going to get close enough for any group of people to yell, send her back. And the for-profit media conniption, if anyone, even one person, was to do that, would be felt on Neptune. I mean, we know that to be true. There's no doubt of that, is there? Yeah, I didn't think so. And one of the essential problems that goes with all of this is that there are people who are making the kinds of living where you can buy those $600,000, $1 million homes. And they make it by doing and saying the most vile and vituperative things. Take, for instance, and just a for instance, Matt Staver. Matt Staver never wonders where his next meal is coming from. Matt Staver has everything and more that he could ever want. And he has made it by fostering hatred in this country. By making people despise their fellow Americans over the most trivial of matters, namely how they have sex. He runs a tax-free grift called Liberty Counsel. You may recall that he's the one who defended Sister Clerk Kim Davis. And he runs a network of lawyers with that tax-free grift in every state capital in this country. And so he's having a hissy over the Equality Act. And he's having a hissy against a non-binding resolution that the California General Assembly passed. That non-binding resolution called on religious and other leaders to stand up for humane and equitable and decent treatment of the LGBTQ community in California. Not to Matt Staver, though. Matt Staver will rake in the dough because he has declared they're trying to use their corporate clout to send a message to the United States Supreme Court to do what the Equality Act would do, and that is elevate sexual orientation and gender identity. And that's this whole spectrum, by the way. That's a huge spectrum, which includes gender identity, includes minor-attracted individuals. Now, what is that? That's someone who believes that sex with minors is okay, that it should not be stigmatized or criminalized, that having multiple relationships, not being monogamous, is okay. They're really on board with all of that whole agenda, and they're wanting to force it on the rest of the country, but they're wanting to do it through a 5-4 vote at the United States Supreme Court. Because 200 corporations have signed a brief urging that the United States Supreme Court find that discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender is banned by the Civil Rights Act. In essence, expanding rights in this country, and expanded rights in this country are, generally speaking, always a good thing in some form of government that likes to pretend it's a democracy. And he went on to say that the Q in LGBTQ is for people who are gender confused and attracted to having sex with little children. This is, of course, not even remotely what queer means. Not within its modern context. The original word meant odd or strange. It was turned into a pejorative to mean homosexual. And then the community took the word back and made it a word for people who don't fully align with being either male or female, but acknowledge that they have a little bit of each in them, regardless of plumbing. I saw a guy at, okay, probably wrong in that regard. I saw a person who presented as male. I mean, if having a beard and a mustache and a short haircut and a generally male physique counts, but was wearing a lovely pair of what appeared to be patent leather pointy-toed pumps with a 3.5-inch heel. This was just someone who was attending Netroots Nation. And because I've been trying to educate myself a little bit, I said, I'm guessing that's one of that person is part of the Q in the LGBTQ. The fuck? Why does Matt Staver give a goddamn what kind of shoes people are wearing? I mean, if we want to get all historical and cultural and stuff, we might point out that if you go back and you look at pictures of English monarchs like James I or Louis XIV, you'll find that they're wearing shoes that would have been perfectly acceptable at a disco in 1977. Big, chunky heels about 3 inches tall and platforms. Women were not the first to wear heels. Men were. It is still socially acceptable on a broad basis for men to wear high heels as long as they're parts of cowboy boots, because those inward sloped heels are meant to provide a brace when you put your foot into the stirrups when you've gotten up on the horse and you're sitting in the saddle. But it's amazing from a cultural standpoint to take into account the fact that virtually everything that is identified as being feminine or even hyper-feminine in fashion begins its fashion life with men. Having recently been in Philadelphia, I can attest to this by virtue of having seen renderings of portraits and such like of late 18th century men here in what would become the United States of America, all done up in get-ups that would be immediately welcome on RuPaul's Drag Race. But there's no money in that. There is, however, money for people like Matt Staver. In trying to police the fashion of the era. I think back, and this is not to pick at any scabs from 2015, 2016, but I think of that one debate where Hillary walked out in a bright yellow pantsuit, and then Bernie walked out in a shambled out in a sort of rumpled gray business suit with a shirt and some sort of forgettable necktie and a pair of probably Payless shoe source, because he was poor back then, Oxford's, brogues. And I remember thinking, had he come out in that bright yellow pantsuit, his political career would have been dead. And so it remains. But Yeah, the Q in LGBTQ does not mean people who want to have sex with kids. He seems to be mistaking the LGBTQ community with the incredibly straight Jeffrey Epstein, who got denied bail today, and not for no reason. Because if you've got a go bag ready, hidden away, if you've shipped in a shredder and a thing to tear up your floors and ceramic tiles with, and your go bag includes diamonds and a fake passport that says you're somebody else, Ivan got a secret, perhaps? Mr. Alias Undercover? Then you might be what the law considers to be a flight risk, and you might not even want to be letting that person go home because you don't know what kind of crap's hidden in there. Back to those houses, Ron in Raleigh says, they scraped off the lot next to me and built a house that sold for $741,000. The family is the father, wife, and 2 kids. The mother doesn't work. They have 2 relatively new cars. They employ a lawn service and a maid service to keep the 3,500 square foot house clean. Imagine the monthly nut for single income household. Gives me the vapors just to think about it. Yeah, Ron, and I reckon that's the kind of folks who think that, what we need is another 4 more years of Trump. By God, you can't have them socialists in here making all that noise about people being able to go to the doctor when they're sick. I remember something that Don Blankenship said several years ago. Yeah, these Democrats, these socialist commies, they're not going to be happy till we're living 9 families to 1 room. I've seen that, I've been to China. But you get to the point where you wonder what's going to become of us. Particularly telling was the response of the congressional Republicans to the send her back business last night. And again, I'll just remind people, because you don't seem to hear it said much on the for-profit media, that crowd you saw last night is the kind of crowd that Donald Trump learned to whip up when he first got his break in TV in professional wrestling. Every one of his rally crowds is a professional wrestling crowd. Seriously. You just watch clips of any professional wrestler and you'll see that the audience there is little different from an audience of maggots. Because they are there to be stimulated. They are there to let forth their, what did Walt Whitman call them, their barbaric yawps. Lindsey Graham, who once called Donald Trump a bigoted, xenophobic racist, said he found no fault with Trump last night. But, the crowd may have been problematic, but the real problem is the socialists. Because between the for-profit media and the Republicans, what they have done is they have ginned themselves up out of whole cloth a brand new bête noire to run against in 2020. They can't run on Trump's record. He doesn't have one. His madness will inspire the maggot base, but he's still got to get to 51% somehow. One of the things that Brad Parscale and the team of demons that are running the 2020 campaign are doing is to say they're going to find people who didn't vote last time and get them interested and get them active and get them good and red and angry, and that's how they plan on hanging on to power. And considering their expertise in using granular Facebook data, I'd give them even odds of accomplishing their goal. By the way, Bishop Willard Romney said that he was disappointed. A couple of other Republicans said, gosh, that sure was unfortunate. And then came the lies of Nitwit Nero himself. When he was queried about the send her back business, Nitwit Nero said, I thought I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I thought I stopped it because when I heard it, I began speaking very quickly. There's only one problem. He's on video. And he stands there and revels in the send her back for 13 long seconds. And on a TV screen, or even in radio, 13 seconds is not beginning to speak quickly. 13 seconds is a long-ass pause for me. And I'm the king of the pregnant pause. So he lied. But he does that all the time. But of course, we have to remember and hang on to our ability to manifest sympathy for the real victims of Donald Trump's poisonous invective. Yes. I'm not talking, of course, about Ilhan Omar or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Ayanna Pressley or Rashida Tlaib. I'm talking about, well, Meghan McCain. Because Meghan cranked up the wambulance over the send her back business and made it clear to anybody who would listen and take her seriously, and I realize that's a challenge, that she, Meghan McCain, was the real victim here. I earnestly wish I was kidding.
So it is possible that we may have gotten a preview of you-know-who's 2020 presidential campaign during a rally in North Carolina last night. He continued his attack on freshman congresswomen that was condemned as racist, and it seemed to be a hit with the crowd. Take a look.
These left-wing ideologues see our nation as a force of evil, the way they speak so badly of our country. They want to demolish our Constitution, weaken our military, eliminate the values that built this magnificent country. Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds.
So, does that chant remind you of...
Now, they cut away too soon, but he stands there and does his Mussolini thing where he looks from side to side and hauls his chin up and displays his turkey waddle. And what the hell? Weirdness. And there was no attempt to make them stop. And in fact, as you heard it there, you could tell that it began almost as though an applause light had gone on. There was nothing organic or spontaneous about it. For one, the maggots aren't sharp enough to do that without help. Back to Whoopi.
So, does that chant remind you of anything? Well, it takes this to a different level.
Yeah, it does.
This is a whole different thing that's happening here.
Well, it's a continuation of lock her up and...
No, this is send her back. She's an American citizen.
Yeah. She also escaped violence in Somalia.
Yeah.
She is a self-made woman. What the hell did he do except get money from his father?
Yeah. Well, but you know, there's a lot of, I mean, should we be worried about this? I mean, there were children in that.
Yes.
In there yelling, send her back. What is the message? Who are we sending back? What is the message here is the question, really. And I pose that to our table, but also to us as Americans. What is this message? What are we saying?
Well, it terrified me. I never thought that I would hear those words from the President of the United States of America, the same words that I heard my grandmother subjected to, the same words that I heard that I've been subjected to. And, you know, federal law says go back to where you came from. The use of those words is discriminatory when used by a supervisor or by a coworker. And you can sue that person. You can get fired for that. What does it say that the Executive-in-Chief of the United States of America is saying it about a congresswoman? And I just, when I think about that, I think he's supposed to be the moral leader of this country.
Wow, come on.
He's supposed to be. He's supposed to be someone that that you look up to, that children look up to.
Yes,
and you have a child in that crowd.
I mean, okay, so far so good, right? She's certainly making a valid point, and what she says about discrimination law and hostile work environments is absolutely true. But you know, it's a single camera shot here, so what you can't see is off to the side, Meghan McCain digging a hole in the ground, putting the post in the ground, and getting on her pogo stick and getting ready to leap up onto the cross.
Yell
Say
it. Yes.
send her
Yes.
back.
You know, we have to be careful holding up our leaders to these standards which we ourselves cannot fit. You know, they're real people. This one is, I don't know what to say about this one. I've never...
Look, it was really
it's
dystopian.
Crazy. Yeah,
it's not.
it's crazy.
I was trying to go out to dinner and ignore politics. My family's in town, and came home and saw it on Twitter and then saw it on TV. And look, everyone at this table, and I think people that watch the show or have ever seen the dumpster fire that was my interview on Seth Meyers, knows that I've been one of Ilhan Omar's most vocal critics on her policy regarding Israel, regarding some of her comments that I and many others interpreted as anti-Semitic. But the problem right now is you're taking away my agency to criticize her policy because you're making this so much about race, xenophobia, racism. I think anytime you're hitting in a territory where you're telling any American citizen who is of a different color than you are to send them back, I, too, didn't think this was something that I would see in my country.
Okay, upspeak girl. You didn't think this was something you were going to see. Why didn't you? The man came down an escalator and declared that Mexico was sending rapists to the United States. But she didn't think she was going to see this in her country. Well, she's the daughter of a pair of bajillionaires. Once again, has never missed a meal. And that is not fat shaming. That's just an economic reality. She's never wondered, the power company has never showed up in her yard and said, okay, you don't come up with $600. You don't have electricity. They've never done that because she's never had to make choices about whether to pay the power bill or buy the family's needed medicines that month. This is why, for instance, on Fridays when we have our group discussion, I came up with the concept of the extraordinary ordinary roundtable. Because if you tune into the multimillionaire for-profit media, you'll find a bunch of wealthy people sitting around rapping about people whose lives they have utterly no clue. Mitch McConnell declared that the $15 minimum wage that the House of Representatives has passed would not even be considered in the Senate. It is so dangerous an idea to Mitch McConnell that people would be able to make $15 an hour in this country that he cannot even tolerate the discussion of it. What does that tell you about the shaky ground that the wealth class in this country knows that it's on? About the house of cards in which they know they are living? That we cannot even have a debate in the so-called greatest deliberative body in the history of the world about something that might be approaching a livable de minimis wage for the people who carry this country on their backs. The CEO of McDonald's says that a $15 minimum wage would force McDonald's to give to raise the prices on its menu. He, on the other hand, got his salary tripled. And it's measured in the tens of millions of dollars per annum. And somehow or another, McDonald's still has a dollar menu. That's why I reference the fact that if you take a chef's knife, or any kind of knife really, and you cut a McDonald's hash brown patty, not quite in half. It's maybe a little more than half on one side. That lesser half, the cost of that lesser half, is what $10 a month subscribers to this little network are giving up on a daily basis. Not quite half of a deep-fried McDonald's hash brown patty. But the price of that would apparently have to go above $1 if the people preparing it were to get $15 an hour. And make no mistake, if the Congress should, and this is where regulation and economic management come in, if the Congress should, by some miracle, provide for a $15 minimum wage, corporate America would then make sure that it raised the prices on everything to make sure that the people making $15 an hour now remained as economically desperate as they were when it was 9 or 8 or 7. That $600,000 house that has captured our attention this evening, I never know from one night to the next what's going to get people. I got a note from Steve, $600,000 house. What you said really hit home for me. It reminded me of when I went to college at George Washington University in D.C. I remember when I started my first semester at GW seeing kids driving brand new BMWs that they received as a graduation gift. There was even a story in the college newspaper about a student having his Lamborghini towed. When I went there, it was about $25,000 a year in total. Same school's now $75,000 a year. I received grants totaling about half my costs. However, there were kids whose families could write a check for $12,500 with no problem each semester and give their kids hundreds of dollars each week for spending. I used to see advertisements for students to go to Florida, Cabo, the Caribbean, etc. on spring break. I knew a kid who didn't do any laundry all semester and just took his dirty clothes home to his mother during semester breaks. The fact that an 18 or 19-year-old couldn't do laundry baffled me, let alone having so many clothes a person could go that long without washing them. I couldn't believe it. As a fan of the 1980s soap opera Dallas and Falcon Crest, I thought that people with that kind of money only existed on TV. Well, no, they're out there. I don't know how they get to where they are. Yeah, and as Brother Deacon Asa recalls, when it comes to criticizing Merca. Wait, talking shit about Merca? I seem to remember a filthy orange pig sitting across from Bill I Want to Rub You Down with Falafel O'Reilly saying something about, well, America's done some awful things, too. You think we're so innocent? Who was that orange pig again, Bob? Why, that was Nitwit Nero. Of course it was. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, and I'm going to go home with a year's supply of rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat. And what's that? Elbert in Rhode Island said, a group of American Indians need to take out an ad in the New York Times. It should say, if your family's not 100% American Indian, then your family immigrated here. I couldn't agree more. Dave from The Blind, Dear Miss McCain, on behalf of Crazy Dave's Crucifixion and Martyrdom Services, please vacate your cross immediately. Our records show that you did not use a newly licensed crucifixion specialist. Besides, your Lord and Savior, Donald John Trump, the man who made fun of your father, isn't worth saving. By the way, I'd like to announce our new damnation service. Yes, we'll dig a hole 12 feet deep and assist you in jumping into it if you can't get up on the cross on your own. Remember, at Crazy Dave's, we try to handle things with a friendly and professional manner. Sincerely, Dave, from The Blind. Yeah, definite cowbell. Correction from Steve. He went beyond saying Mexico was sending rapists and murderers. He said Mexicans are rapists and murderers. I regret the error. But let's all just remember, Meghan McCain is the victim.
Especially when we're going into 2020. And let me tell you, Republicans right now, we may be in power and have popularity and Trump's numbers may be real high, but let me tell you, it's my generation that's going to answer for this. Try selling conservatism to a younger generation when all they see is this kind of crap on TV. And the Trump administration, all of you, Ivanka, Jared, because you're around my age range, where are you in this? Because if my parents were doing this, let me tell you. And I don't understand where his safeguards, which is apparently his family.
It is required by Republicans to speak now. It's almost like
it is.
I don't know what else to say.
They're allegedly
for 2
Republicans.
years, we've been railing against this guy, and and the Republican Party just falls in line behind him. They don't say anything. Lindsey Graham apologizes for him. McConnell, who has a wife who was an immigrant, apologizes.
We should be worried about violence being directed.
Well, let's get to that point, because that's really, and that, because that really does involve people, women in particular, who critique this, which is our right. This is one of the great rights of the United States. You can say what you want to say. Okay? He can say what he wants to say. But see, if we say something like that, and it sounds like we're talking about violence, we can get in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, you can't.
He doesn't
care or doesn't acknowledge the fact that what he's doing is possibly inviting violence towards these women, and women who are saying, this is wrong, I don't like this.
No question.
This involves every female in this country.
Hear, hear, whoopee. Hey, by the way, and, you know, we're over an hour into the program now, and we've been talking about this. Every time one of these things transpires, I have to look around and go, what is he trying to keep us from paying attention to? You know, the Cohen documents came out today, right? Because the government has quietly wrapped up its investigation of the Michael Cohen matter and the hush money and the filthy violations of campaign finance laws. Well, it turns out that the FBI was convinced that Donald Trump was actively involved in the conspiracy to cover up the hush money payments. And the thing is, there's a paper trail. Oh, yes, there is. Well, there's a paper trail to the extent that they have a list of phone calls and who called whom when. And it's pretty clear what Michael Cohen accomplished, he did on orders. And the orders came from Donald Trump, otherwise known as Individual One. Anybody surprised? One Democrat on the Intel Committee, Adam Schiff, the information contained in the in the investigation would have made Donald Trump indictable as Individual One had he not been President of the United States and had we not been operating under that godforsaken Nixonian rule that says you can't indict a sitting president, that the president is in fact above the law. Schiff said, the documents unsealed in the SDNY case against Michael Cohen demonstrate that Donald Trump was intimately involved in devising and executing a corrupt scheme to prevent his affair with Stormy Daniels from being revealed in the final weeks of the 2016 elections. They show that contrary to his public statements for months afterwards seeking to distance himself from the payments that were made to Daniels and another woman, Karen McDougal, he authorized the illegal payment of hush money and coordinated doing so with his attorney, Cohen, and his press secretary, Hope Hicks. The inescapable conclusion from all the public materials available now is that there was ample evidence to charge Donald Trump with the same criminal election law violations for which Michael Cohen pled guilty and is now serving time in prison. Seems pretty clear. Ron adds, going back to wages and $15 an hour, the CEO of Dollar Tree hauls in $22 million a year. The manager at the store I frequent told me that she's given 0 hours for stocking. They usually have a truck deliver 1,400 pieces a week. The clerks are paid the federal minimum wage of $7.25. A lot of Republicans believe a minimum wage is just wrong. And yet she's working off the clock. Off-the-clock hours at major retail outlets in this country are ridiculous. The abuse of working people is pandemic, whether it be Walmart, whether it be Target, whether it be Dollar Tree or Dollar General, Family Dollar. People are expected to work off the clock. Oh, Bob, you kid, says Matt in San Francisco. $600K? The average price for a two-bedroom, one-bath home in San Francisco is $1.5 million. Jesus, how can an economy sustain something like that? Note coming in from Darlene in Connecticut. Disclaimer. You know I utterly despise Trump, hands down. If it even exists, the almighty hell would be too good a place for him. That stated, I disagree. I think Trump actually did not like the chant because he didn't have the usual smirk on his face. I think he looked uncomfortable. He didn't push back against his maggot base because he was too afraid to. I'm going out on a limb here, I know, but I think he's being made aware of the fact that more reports are coming out about his third wife, and to a lesser degree his first wife being immigrants themselves. It's going to be pretty damned hard to differentiate them from Ilhan. Who knows, maybe the deuce for three has even given him a tongue lashing about all this. Don't forget, Mussolini may have been one of Trump's faves, but in the end, even Mussolini's base strung him up by his Buster Browns. Little gas station in Milan, if I recall correctly. Alongside Carla Petacci, was it? Yeah. Well, the one thing, it is clear that this was pre-planned. Among other things, Allison Camerota at CNN pointed out that it was straight off the teleprompter. That he wasn't free-forming. And Laura Trump had gotten them worked up with the chant. She said what happened last night at the rally was so instructive, I think. He was going after these congresswomen in incendiary ways, and it was on teleprompter. He wasn't just riffing. That means the incendiary stuff was written down, and that means they thought about it because it is a campaign strategy. It's not as if stoking racial tension has never been done before and it never worked before. That was Maggie Haberman. Politicians do it because it works. Very few people run for re-election as incumbent presidents with an economy like this without talking about it, which is what this president does. An economy like this. What kind of economy like this? And by the way, further reminders that the N-word tape does exist out there of Donald Trump from his apprentice years. I happened to catch Alan Salkin and Aaron Short, who authored a book called The Method to the Madness, over on My Filthy Morning Habit. They said that a producer from The Apprentice had gone on the record with them that Trump used that word in reference to a particular African-American contestant in the first season of The Apprentice. I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think there's any doubt at all. He'd simply say that that wasn't really him on the tape. And the maggots would go, okay. Why the hell not? Let's run over to the phones. Check in with Tracy. Hey, Tracy.
Hey, honey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you? Did you get your walk in today?
Did I do my... Oh, yes, I did.
I'm so proud of you.
You know,
out there climbing the stairs and not even noticing it.
Yeah, it's so funny because I call, you've heard of the young and the restless. Well, I call myself the slow and the sluggish. So, I set my alarm for 4 in the morning because it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to get myself enthused enough to get my ass out of bed because, I can't stand those preppy motherfuckers that get up and just be all with boundless energy. I don't like those people. I think they're aliens.
Something suspicious about them.
I think they're pod people, Bob. I don't really think they're human. And so the real people like you and I, it takes a lot, especially when you're at a certain age and at a certain size, it takes a lot of effort. So I set my alarm for 4, And, you know, I get up and I go to the bathroom, and then sometimes I actually continue and keep moving, but then a lot of the times I go back to bed. And but this morning I did go back to bed, and I eventually got up and I got my stretch on, and today was upper body work, so I did upper body, and then I went for my walk. And this morning, my walk consisted of, because I'm not going for distance, because did I tell you that I signed up for a 5K?
Yes, you did. Wow.
So the 5K is on Sunday, which is actually on my birthday. So since I know I can walk 3.1 miles without passing out, so now I have the endurance thing down. So now I'm working on speed. So today, for the past couple of days, what I've been doing now is kind of working on speed. So this morning, what I did was I started with a warm-up, and then a power walk, and then the power walk went into a jog, and then the jog went back to a power walk, and then the power walk went back into a walk. And that was sustained for 15 minutes without stopping. So, and I did that for a whole mile without stopping, which is pretty damn good. I did that I did that yesterday and today, and actually for the last 4 days. No, that's a lie. I did it Monday. I did walk 2 miles Tuesday, and yesterday and today I did whatever. So for the last 4 days, I did some kind of walk cardio thing. But I'm, continuous moving. But so yesterday, with the whole, I had my own encounter that really shook me, and I'm slowly getting over it. I actually had a very scary encounter with a Trump supporter. I had picked up Penny. I was on my way taking her home yesterday afternoon, listening to your show, as a matter of fact, and it was the beginning of your show, and I forget what you were talking about, but I was heading on my way to get on the freeway, and I see this big-ass black truck with a Trump sign, big sign, not a bumper sticker, but a big-ass sign, but it was in the passenger side window, and it covered the window completely. And I'm in, I don't know how you guys have your lanes in West Virginia, but in, California, we have like a middle lane that you can start a left turn. So there's, but I'm in the left actual driving lane, and the way I'm driving, there's no way that I could have moved. So, but the guy, since the fucking sign is, blocking his sight of vision, he couldn't see me, but I could see him, and I'm trying to move. But then, I don't know if he saw me or whatever, but he's getting in my lane. And so I'm trying to move, and I don't know if he saw me, but the bottom line was, I know he probably didn't, but I don't care. But then, so horns are blowing and stuff, so I'm trying to move. He almost hits me. I get out the way. And so then the yelling starts. I ignore him. I just get out the way. And so what starts happening is he starts to follow me. and he's yelling at me. And, look at this, bitch this, and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm not going to react because, again, I have, my severely disabled child in this car. So I'm just going to drive. So I get on the freeway, and he's following me on now he's on the freeway with me, and now every time I change lanes, he changes the lane. And so I'm like, and again, this is not long, this is before the whole rally thing. This is, after the whole Ilhan Omar and Tlaib and you know, all this stuff is going on in my head, and all this stuff is thinking about, you know, inciting violence against women of color. And I'm thinking, my God, and I'm thinking, gee, I could call the police, but hey, I'm in the part of LA where it's the sheriff's department, and anybody that knows LA County is like, you know, sheriff's department, not so much for black women. And as a matter of fact, the sheriff's department over there, not long ago, a black woman had, you know, has disappeared, and they never, you know, there's never been a real true investigation. It's about what happened to her. And I'm like, great. So I, you know, fortunately at some point he got off the freeway. I got Penny home. I got home, and I just kind of, you know, I eventually calmed down, but it just, I cannot explain to you the fear that I have. I cannot explain to you
your blood
anger.
pressure going up, the fight or flight response kicking in, pulse rate it goes through the roof. Are those some of the things?
The fact that I had a child that I had to worry about, this little girl that I had to protect. The fact that I live in a country where I'm listening to this man go on and on about send her, you know, because that's the, you know, send her back. The fact that people are saying that this is not racist. The fact that when I was growing up, the names that I was called because I went to predominantly white schools. I have been told to go back to Africa. And I'm like, motherfucker, I've never been to Africa. To tell me to go back to Africa would be akin to me telling you to go back to Europe or Scotland or Ireland or wherever the fuck country your relative, whatever cave your relatives crawled out of. I have never been to Africa. I've been called a spear chucker. I have been called a porch monkey. I have been called an African booty scratcher. None of these were terms of endearment.
Yeah, they don't sound like it.
No. So when somebody says, go back to Africa, no, honey, it is not racist. Okay? It is not racist. It is not funny. There is no other way for it to be meant but to be racist. So when I sit here and when, you know, I've been, you know, the thing is lately because, and I, you know, I'm glad that I have been walking lately. And because I have been walking and I've been doing my own self-care. And by my self-care, that has been working out and moving every day. And doing my own devotions and my own, every morning I get up, like I said, it takes me a minute to move, but when I move, I move. When I go outside, I put on my Bluetooth headsets. I turn on my iPhone, and I put on my gospel music, and I take this time to praise God, and I listen to music that says the battle is not yours, it's the Lord, and I take that time to contemplate and realize and try to understand and not be angry about where this country is going and my place in this country, and the people who are telling me that because I am a black woman who happens to love another woman, that I do not belong in this country, that I am not a patriot, that if I criticize this, how dare I criticize this country? Because see, I should be lucky that I'm allowed to be, I should be grateful, Bob. You know that, right? That the white people allow me to be in this country. That I am allowed with my, that I am allowed to live in Encino. I should be grateful.
Yeah, it's a matter of grace, right? Yeah.
That how dare I criticize this great and benevolent country that has allowed me, this girl that grew up in South Central, this country,
yeah.
Look how great this country is.
And see, the thing is, Tracy, if I may just to sort of piece through this, the incident that you experienced is the way that a lot of this stuff goes down. It's a two-person transaction, more or less. And because it's a two-person transaction, that allows a whole lot of people in this country to say, well, I've never seen anything like that, using my best Richard Pryor white people voice. And to therefore think that it's no big deal. Or that these are somehow isolated incidents. When they're not. I mean, I get...
Air quotes? Did you use your air quotes?
I used my air quotes, yes.
Okay.
So I got a story here out of Lockport, New York from WBFO about a guy by the name of Jeffrey Calhoun. And there was a little traffic incident there in Lockport, New York. Not Louisiana, not Mississippi, not Alabama, New York. And there was a cell phone video taken. And after this little traffic incident, the victim of the crime said while he was sitting in the car, he looked at me and said, "You, Ginger, you probably didn't even have insurance." And I said, "Oh, be quiet." The woman speaking is Jeannie Muhammad. So we're going back and forth like this police officer said, "Ma'am, you can't have this exchange," and he walked me down the street. And as it shows up in the video, Jeffrey Calhoun refuses to let go of Jeannie Muhammad's handbag while she's trying to walk away. Okay. And then he pulled a gun. The woman who shot the video said, "I thought she was a shoplifter. I saw the man's gun. I thought he was a security guard trying to stop her." That turned out not to be the case. And she heard the white guy yelling, "Stop." And she said, "That's when I just lost it. I jumped down all my steps, ran across the street, didn't even look both ways. And they let me go across the street, and I asked him, 'Why are you doing this to her?' And then when the cop showed up, she hollered, 'He's got a gun!' And that's when the cop draws down on Jeffrey Calhoun and says, 'Put your hands on the car.' And in that moment, well, he's been charged with throwing the woman to the ground, pulling his gun, pointing at her, pointing it at other people, and attempted robbery in the first degree. Lockport, New York. And it could have ended much more horribly than it did, because it's a horrible case all by itself.
By itself.
But the thing is, if you say this is because of what Donald Trump has been doing, the maggots say, "Well, it just ain't so. I mean, sometimes people just lose their tempers." And because and I think, I don't want brawls breaking out. I guess I don't want brawls breaking out in the well of the House and the Senate. But Ilhan Omar would be completely within her right to say to Donald Trump, you come here and you say that to my face. Say it to my face. Otherwise, don't have my name in your mouth.
Exactly.
You come say it to my face and accept the consequences for saying that to my face. And remember, he's a chicken shit. He's a coward.
Oh, he's a pussy.
He's a water-boweled, bone-spur chicken hawk.
He is the...
And I really do. I think that's the response to every hateful thing he says from now on. If you're not willing to come and say it directly to my face, keep it out of your mouth.
Don't even speak my... Could you see, could you imagine him rolling up on Maxine Waters?
Yeah. No, and he knows. He knows he would get slapped so hard the spit and his teeth would fly. And he knows he would have it coming. Because he remembers back when old Pappy Fred the Klansman used to do the very same thing to him, and that's why he did it to Don Jr. How about that? By the way, you got a note from Ron in Raleigh. Ron in Raleigh said, wait, what? I'm just short of 70 years of age, and I've never heard a booty scratcher. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. Maybe that's just California thing. I don't know.
It could be. But just wanted you to know that you're providing further cultural education, and everybody benefits from it, Tracy.
Yeah, well, see, it's just when I just, I have been, like I said, I have been off of Facebook for like 2 years, and the only reason why I came back to Facebook was just to talk about, my weight loss journey in order to help other people, help with them if they're having struggles. Talk about a weight loss journey, my mental health journey, the whole, and I've been shying away from talking about politics at all. And so, and this is where the only place basically where I talk about politics is is here. And so it's just because I don't want to start anything because I don't want the mess. But lately, after the last few days, I might have to rethink that because it's just getting to the point where I cannot, in all good conscience, not say anything.
It feels like silence is acceptance.
It is feeling like, because especially now, especially with what he is saying about these four black, because AOC is not a black woman, but she is a woman of color. It is because it is an attack on these women is an attack on me. But what's upsetting to me, the most upsetting part of this whole thing is the fact that the Republican Party, no one is calling him out. No one is saying what you said is wrong. And like Whoopi said, it is workplace harassment. if he was a boss, if this was at any other job, if he was somebody's supervisor, and if he said that, or any other employee, and if you walked up to Ilhan Omar or any of the other three women and to say to them, go back to your country that you came from, there would be repercussions. Like I was talking to like my friend Sarah the other day, yesterday, when all this went down, and I was saying, I'm sitting in the parking lot at Smart and Final right now, and I said, now had I walked into Smart and Final, and a white clerk said that to me, and I just looked at him like he was crazy, and I called over the manager, and I said to the manager, this person and recounted what the person said to me, that person more than likely would have been fired on the spot. Or if I worked with somebody that said that to me, that person would be not only beyond reprimanded, they would be fired on the spot because of this discriminatory and hateful language. See, the problem with this man is that there's no repercussions there's no consequences for his actions. And the fact that they voted just for this for him to be, what was the thing that they did in Congress yesterday?
Oh, pass the resolution, yeah.
Blah, 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 whatever. But nothing about impeachment.
Well, now, hold on. Representative Al Green, after that resolution passed, he introduced a bill of impeachment.
I know that, but did anybody else vote for me? But it didn't carry, or whatever the case may be.
Somewhere near 100 Democrats voted in favor of it,
but not enough.
Oh no.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
And while it is absolutely true from a constitutional standpoint that his racism all by itself would be sufficient grounds for impeachment, there are far stronger possibilities out there that will ground it in a much harder to evade way, so that it will be richly obvious when Mitch Stormy McConnell does for Donald Trump the same thing that Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels did, exactly what's going on. But I'm kind of proud of Ilhan Omar because she took the next step today, and she said something that I've been saying on this program for years now, that Donald Trump is a straight-up fascist. She said today, Donald Trump is a fascist. Oh, and by the way, you got a note from Kyle. Thank you to Tracy for speaking from the heart regarding the go back comments she's faced. I, as a white man, even as a gay man who has been subjected to many threats in my life, cannot understand living through that in a country that you've known your whole life, being told to go back to a country you wouldn't even know and have never been to. This is why I love the Horn family and what you do, Bob. We can learn about the different challenges people from different backgrounds face, and it can inform us about how to be better allies for different communities, even if we will never face what those various communities will. And I know these may feel like empty words right now because things seem so damn dangerous, so dark in this country, but it's always darkest just before the dawn. So thank you, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
And I can't compare, but I can say, as I did, I have been told to go back where I came from for having the temerity to challenge the poisoning of the place that I live. And on those occasions when it did happen, because I was clothed in my white male privilege, I was able to look up and say, "We've been here since before the coal companies. Why don't you fuck off?"
See, this is the thing. My thing is, it's like, like I will, and being, like what Kyle was saying, being a gay man. Now, see, as my wife has, pointed out to me, like I told you, I think, she calls me a dyke, because I've officially only been a lesbian for now 7 years.
Yeah, you're just a little baby lesbian.
I'm a baby lesbian. So that experience of, knowing that I was a lesbian and dealing with coming out to my, being like a teenager and having to deal with that, God, I can't even imagine what it would have been like, because I know what my mom put me through, and I was 45 years old, and she lost her shit when, I realized that I was a lesbian at 45, grown-ass woman, living on my own, with my own place and my job, and, not having to worry about being kicked out of my home. And I don't even want to know what it would have been like had I, realized this when I was living under her roof and depended upon her. I don't even want to know what that reality would have been like. So so it's a whole new thing. I don't even want to know. So the stories that I have heard and seen, and like you watched the first season of Pose, and that first episode when Damon gets thrown out of his home.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking, and to see what trans and trans people of color, women and men of color go through. And it's just like, and I got into a heated debate about, well, you're not a trans woman. But I'm like, I'm not a trans woman, but I'm a woman of color. And so the argument was, I said, so you're saying that just because I'm not a trans woman, I don't have that same lived experience as a woman of color. So I said, so that means you don't see a trans woman as a woman. But I do. So, because see, again, and I was talking to a person, a gay man. I said, so you don't see, because I'm seeing, since I am new to the LGBT, still relatively new to the LGBTQ, family, community, I see a trans woman as a woman. But because I did not realize, because again, like I said, I'm still new to this community, relatively new to this community. I did not realize the transphobia within the LGBTQ community. Did not even realize that the T part of the LGBTQ was trans was new. It was not even in that part in the community, that they were ostracized and looked down on as freaks and it and other. And I'm like, fuck, really?
Oh, not only that. I remember way back when Peter Godbold was breaking broadcast ground with the first 5-night-a-week LGBT radio show here. He had a trans activist on, and she said, "You want vicious? You should see what goes on between the transvestites, the cross-dressers, the passable cross-dressers, the pre-op transsexuals, and the post-op transsexuals." She said, "Oh, that's vicious." So
right,
maybe that's gotten a little bit less. I don't know. On the other hand, though, Matt says Tracy's correct. I've fired people for saying what Donald Trump said, and that was 10 years ago. I've also kicked a customer out of a store for calling a cashier a slow ginger. Why this man is in office still is beyond me.
So it's like, because of who I am and what I've experienced, words matter. Remember when we had this discussion a while ago when Stacey Abrams was the governorship of Georgia was stolen from her?
Yeah.
And so after the election, she was always introduced as failed how do they
failed
introduce her
gubernatorial
as?
candidate.
Yeah, failed. And I'm like, no. That is not how, because when the white people lose, like when Romney lost for president and, former governor this or former representative this or representative that, they're never introduced.
Yeah. What about former Georgia Senate Minority Leader Stacey Abrams?
Right.
Because she was that too. By the way, you will be glad to know, I guess, that Todd has told me to go back to Pinkville.
Todd, if I didn't know he would enjoy being spanked, I would say, he needs to be spanked.
Oh, let's don't start that. Let's don't start that.
No.
Yeah, Jimmy in the Great Northwest says if Trump can't or won't respect the criticism of Americans on how the government's being ran, well, hell, he should leave and leave quickly. Yeah, how about we get some chance going of send him back because after all, his mother was an illegal immigrant.
Thank you. He's an anchor baby.
He is an anchor baby, absolutely. Oh, and all this time we've been talking about how Trump doesn't drink. That book I mentioned a couple of minutes ago that's got the producer from The Apprentice talking about his use of that word. Well, there's also information in it that, he drank. He drank plenty.
See, and I'm going to go because speaking of weight loss and the things that I'm doing because, I'll post a picture on my Facebook page. There's this thing for Weight Watchers called 2-ingredient dough. And it is made out of, it's 2 ingredients, self-rising flour and non-fat Greek yogurt. I made pizza dough out of it, Bob.
Son of a gun.
And I made it, okay, check it out. So there's all these different hacks, and because I heard about it and I was like, but everybody that I read it, all the people that talked about it said it was a pain in the ass to make because you got to do this and that and that. Yeah. So yesterday on the Weight Watchers Connect, it's kind of like Weight Watchers' own kind of like Facebook page. This one of the members said, forget about getting the mixer and the rolling pins. Just make the dough, throw it on some plastic wrap, like saran wrap or whatever. Spray it with the saran wrap with some Pam cooking spray or whatever. Throw it on the dough after you mix it. But first, just get a good old, rubber spatula or heavyweight mixing spoon. Mix it up, takes a couple of minutes, throw it on there, and then cover the dough with the plastic wrap and just knead it out with the palm of your hand and shape it into, either the rectangle on your cookie sheet or the circle on your pizza pan. Then you bake it for like 5 minutes and then take it out and then you put your toppings on it and, your cheese, and then your vegetables or what have you, and you have pizza. You can make pizza with it. You can somebody made, the cheesy biscuits. You get some like Red Lobster.
Those things are evil.
Yeah, they're evil. And I made a whole pizza, and it was good. I mean, it's like, pizza, but it's good. And, I was happy and it was good and I enjoyed it. And I'll send you, like I said, I'm going to put it on my Facebook page. And I was very, very happy with it. Jan Eva sort of kind of liked it. I mean, she won't be eating it very much, but, when I want a pizza and and I could have even saved more points if I had made my own pizza sauce, but I was lazy and I just got some, what was it, classical tomato.
Yeah,
And,
contadina, whatever, right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Well, I got a breakthrough today because I found the cover for the griddle. So that means over the weekend I can put the griddle together.
Ooh,
and
I heard, did I hear you right talking about you were going to do sourdough pancakes? Did I hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't take how long does it take to make sourdough starter?
Well, yeah, you got to get out front of that. But I've got an absolutely foolproof sourdough starter mix. It's warm water and flour and cultured buttermilk, and you use a little bit of cornmeal, of stone ground cornmeal, with the germ still intact, and you just cover it with cover the top of the quart mason jar with some cheesecloth and a rubber band, and set it in a warm, dusty place, and miracles happen. And then when you want to make the pancakes, you take about 2 cups of it, and then you replenish the stuff in the starter jar and set it back away, and you put the starter in your pan, you make it in your bowl, and you make your pancake batter, and then you let it proof overnight. And oh, heavenly days when you go to make those pancakes. You want to talk about it's perfume, I tell you, perfume.
Oh, I know. Before I forget, I know there's something that I need to ask you and the Horn family before I forget, because, remember, I have the retention of a special needs mat. So here's the deal, and it is food related, and I know Todd's listening, and I need you guys' help because I live in California. A while ago, I ordered stone ground grits because I can't get them out here without ordering them online, and I'm not gonna spend $11 for a fucking bag of grits anymore.
Yeah, I understand.
So if anybody in the Horn family can find me real grits, I will send money through PayPal or the Cash App or whatever, and I will send you guys my address for my P.O. box or what have you, and just let me know, and I'll send because I have turned my wife into a grit hoe.
Ooh.
And now she won't eat Albert's grit. The grits that I get out here. She has now turned her nose up to them. As a matter of fact, last night for dinner, I made her. Last week I did grits and shrimp and grits, and last night I did tilapia with Brussels sprouts and grits. And I can have grits on Weight Watchers. I just used, instead of using whole milk, I use low-fat milk, low-fat cheese, and low-sodium chicken broth. So, yeah. So now she won't eat we do not use instant grits, of course, but the grits that we get out here in California aren't stone ground grits. So I'm now employing the Horn family. Anybody, you guys can
okay.
get
All that having been said, I know it's annoying as shit to have it shipped in, but I'm gonna say this much in defense of one place that you can only get it shipped.
I know that. The problem is, I don't mind, you guys shipping it, but I can't imagine that it costs $11 out and down south.
Well,
it costs,
okay, so
a small bag.
The best grits in the United States are, in my mind, they come from Anson Mills, and that's an outfit. That's an AnsonMills.com. AnsonMills.com. And yeah, you're going to pay a shipping fee, but it's like $6.95 for a 12-ounce bag of grits that you have to cook.
Spell it again, Doc.
ANSON, Anson Mills, MILLS.
I think Google listens to us. This scares me.
Just came up, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And I didn't even put grits.
Yeah, it's creepy as hell. But so it's $6.95 for a 12-ounce package, or you can buy the 10-pound bag. I mean, if Jan's really gone off the deep end.
We have been eating a lot of grits.
But the thing is, 12 ounces of grits will make you a right smart pot of grits. But it's $6.95, and they got. I mean, for instance, I'm looking here. The $6.95 is for native, coarse blue corn grits.
Is that what you would recommend?
I would go with the. I'd go with the antebellum coarse white or yellow, and that's all tied up with some.
I have a slight problem with words like antebellum and colonial. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know, but I mean that just places them in time. So, like native coarse blue corn grits is before anybody gets here.
Right.
The pencil cob grits are from the 18th century, and maybe they should call them 18th century, 19th century, whatever. But if it was me, for a classic, I'd go with the coarse yellow grits.
The coarse yellow. Wait. I'm looking at antebellum, colonial coarse, native coarse, Henry Moore, yellow hominy.
Yeah, that's all.
I'm looking at corn. My bad.
Yeah, no, up at the top, the antebellum coarse white, antebellum coarse yellow, and then there's the quick grits. But Jan,
what the? Oh, here's the grits. Grits, corn, and hominy corn. Okay, antebellum. Which one am I looking for now?
Well, it's like I said, it's a cultural thing. White or yellow?
Oh, I don't know. What I got the other day, we've been eating white grits.
I like yellow grits myself.
I've never had yellow grits, so I wouldn't know. I've never had yellow. Isn't that fun? I'm eating white grits.
Todd's telling me the Wiggling Pig has stone ground grits, the good real yellow corn type. So maybe Todd might be your connection on that. But I'm just saying though, if I get Anson Mills, I have to get them shipped in, and they are fan freaking tastic. I mean, there's none better. When you go into some snotty $75 a plate restaurant in New York, and they're putting grits on your plates, they're putting Anson Mills grits on your plate.
Gotcha.
So it's worth at least trying.
Like I said, I can't get. She will no longer eat the Albert's grits that we get in California, in Los Angeles.
No.
I have turned her out.
Well, Steve in New York said, subject line, grits ho. Tracy obviously learnt Jan real good.
Yes. Well, like I said, she had never had grits before. So here's what had happened was I introduced her to grits when we first got together. And, I mean, Albert's, look, that's what I grew up eating. I'm from California. I'm from Los Angeles. Now, people are from down south, but they didn't bring, Southern grits here. We had Albert's grits. And Albert's, you do have to cook them. They're not instant grits. I think Albert's grits take maybe to cook. So they're not instant, but they're, so anywho, they're quick grits. They take about as long as it takes to cook cream of wheat.
Yeah.
And they were fine.
And you got to stir them the same way or else you'll have lumps.
Exactly. So then, a few years back, we went, remember the road trip that we took? We flew to Atlanta, and then we drove down to, North Carolina, South Carolina, and we went to the restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. I think this restaurant that you told me to go to in South Carolina. And we had real grits at this restaurant. The first time I had ever had shrimp and grits. I had never had them before. And it's a whole different consistency.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I actually bought grits back from South Carolina. And we had a bag, but it was a pain in the ass to cook.
Wait till one of these days when you have a deep fried cheese grits cake.
My mom has. I did have that. I did. No, had that when I went to go visit my mom in North Carolina, and so last Christmas, last year in December, I had a brunch, and we did. I did grits again, and I ordered. Those are the grits that I ordered, and I made them overnight in the crock pot. And so I forgot how good they were, and I still, again, didn't do them again. And then the other day, I decided to make grits again, but this time I just cooked them on the stovetop, and I'm like, fuck, man, those are good. Yeah. And so ever since, for the last couple of weeks, I have made grits twice a week for the last couple of weeks, and now we're running low.
I eat them every morning. That's my, especially in cold weather.
I love grits.
It's either yogurt or grits, and it just.
And I'm still bitter. Speaking of yogurt, I'm still bitter that we do not have the watermelon yogurt. We don't.
Got me 4 cups today.
What? You know what? I don't care. You know what?
I'm gonna piss Tracy off.
I have deep fried shrimp tacos, so whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Wait. I think this is something new. 8:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 18th of July. We have entered the era of the food porn clapback. Yeah, you had grits. You had watermelon yogurt. Yeah, I had shrimp tacos, fucker. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But that's okay. There are certain things that, and this is, but, it's all out of love, baby. It's all out of love. And I haven't had a deep fried shrimp taco in a very long time. And it's not that I won't have one. Cause I don't even miss them because it'll be a while before I have one, and I will go. Like it's just I haven't been in East LA in a minute, and even being on Weight Watchers, if I want to do fried shrimp taco, I can have one. Like I said, I just haven't had the time or the inclination to make my way to East LA. Speaking of East LA, have you watched Vita at all?
I have not.
I know you've been.
I have not. Of course, I've been on the road and stuff. And
well, you got 2 seasons, and I think there's 8 episodes each season, and they're only a half an hour.
Which service?
Stars, because watching Vita will cleanse your palate of that horrible show you said was on, the Spanish Princess or whatever.
You just had to bring it up.
Well, now you have to watch it so you.
That's okay. That's okay. Agnes and I went back and tried to check out an episode of Outlander, and I don't know how that woman who wrote that series did it. But she tapped into a whole bunch of old family histories. And I swear, the episode we watched, they were into Agnes's family history. I kid you not.
Nice.
Because they were they were at a plantation on the Cape Fear River.
So I'm slightly bitter. Speaking of television, I'm happy that our boy Billy Porter got nominated for an Emmy. But I'm hotter than fish grease that they snubbed all of my girls from Pose. For Best Actress and Supporting Actress.
Yeah, that's a damn crime.
That, especially considering who was, of course, Game of Thrones got. I'm like, and I'm sorry.
Did they create now on the nominations for Game of Thrones? Did they create an entirely new category of best pathetic, contrived, fucked up ending to a long-running series?
I think so. I was just like, because I really haven't looked at all the I just know it was the same old white people, same old bullshit. White people, white women, same old bullshit. But I am excited that my girl Catherine O'Hara finally got nominated for Schitt's Creek, and that Schitt's Creek got nominated because I love that show.
I've watched a few episodes. I've watched a few episodes, and it's freaking brilliant. Hey, you know, with all the rage for doing reboots and remakes, here's one I came up with. This one just dawned on me last night. And you know, it's not like there were any odd substances involved. It just happens, these things. I want a reboot of Fantasy Island. And of course, and of course, with all the reboots, you have to, you know, cast women instead of men and that sort of stuff. So now that they're out of work, I want a reboot of Fantasy Island with the woman who played the Mother of Dragons as Madame Rourke, and the little guy who played Tyrion Lannister as Tattoo.
Well, you know, Peter Dinklage played Hervé Villechaize in an HBO movie, right?
Yeah, I know. That's why.
He was good. Did you see the movie?
I saw clips of it. Yeah, he was. So I mean,
what
a reboot for the ages.
Oh man, that would be good. Oh, speaking of Emmys, what they did get right. Have you had the courage and the energy? Because it's going to take both to watch When They See Us yet.
I have seen an episode. No, wait, that's not what. No. I was thinking about the other one. No, I saw a couple of episodes of that other one that you were telling me about that was, you know, sort of serialized. No, I have not seen When They See Us.
Well, they got man. So two of the actors, Niecy Nash got nominated. Aunjanue Ellis, who is one of the most underrated actresses ever, she got nominated. Anna DuVernay, she got nominated for the, and two of the actors got nominated.
I'm still getting over the live action remake of The Little Mermaid hissy.
Ooh, Lordy. And when they tell you that this country is not racist, the whole not my Ariel, and Ariel's supposed to be white, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my geez, this is, see, even the woman who voiced Ariel is like, why are y'all tripping? It's like, oh, God bless America.
Yeah,
you know, if black
I know.
If white people doing something, or white actors in The Lion King, why y'all motherfuckers tripping about a black girl doing Ariel?
I know. You just want to say, you know, toughen up that alligator hide there.
I'm in trouble. Jan's coming out here like what? I'm being summoned.
Yeah, see, you didn't.
Okay.
You don't have any grits.
No,
Tracy,
I didn't come in the house yet.
Yep. All right, Tracy, we'll talk soon.
I got to go.
Bye now.
All right, bye.
Yeah, I got to prepare the grits fix. So the conversations, God, I love them. I do. I love them so. I think Todd in South Carolina Stan's going to hook up Tracy with the grits. So that problem may be solved. Let's see here. If you want to, let's see. Do we still have you? Yeah. Hold on. The Bluetooth dropped. So I got to do just a minute. Oh, shoot. Someday I'll have a producer. waiting for my connect. There we go. All right. Hey, welcome to the program. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Now we got you. You know, I don't know if I can beat the grits story though. I've never had grits. This is Kurt calling from Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Oh yeah, we've talked.
Yes. Yeah, we talked here. Maybe about a month ago or so, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just had to call in because I liked your topic here at the beginning of the show, but when you were talking with Tracy about the grits, I've never had grits before. Never had grits. I've had some lutefisk. Yeah, sure, you betcha. You know, that sort of thing up here.
Well, I'll see your lutefisk and I'll raise you a surströmming. So I got you there. Once you've had surströmming, you recognize that lutefisk is for sissies.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. No, really.
Oh, geez.
Scott in Sweden sent us a tin of it and advised us on the front end, because he knows, we got about an acre here. He said, go out as far away from any house, including your own, as you can be before you open this. God,
that is some awful smelling stuff. I know my dad used to eat it, and of course, my dad was Swedish, and of course, I'm part Swedish. But I couldn't really eat all that much of it because it just had a, I think you have to sort of acquire that taste. And
well, for Christ's sakes, it's preserved in lye.
In lye, yes.
You can clean out clogged plumbing with lutefisk. It's a corrosive, for Christ's sakes.
No, that's right. No, the only thing that's Scandinavian that I like is lepsa. Put a little, butter when it's warmed up and some jelly or peanut butter. And,
I like that. I like. There's a Norwegian cheese that's kind of bizarre. It's called Gjetost. It's called Gjetost.
Oh, Gjetost. Yes.
I mean, it's kind of skanky, but it's also got this caramel. It's like if caramel could go bad, it would be Gjetost.
It was right. Well, it's like a bad, it's like an outdated cheese whiz.
Yeah.
Cheese. You know what I mean? It's sort of in that kind of category.
But it's got that sweetness to it that's somehow kind of appealing.
Right.
Now, not all preserved fish is awful, though. The salt cod, and I remember our buddy Lottie had these, and like the Italian and the Portuguese and the Spanish communities just adore salt cod. And you can do wonderful stuff with that. You got to sort of it comes in a little wooden box, at least where I get it, and you got to rehydrate it, and you got to kind of leach some of the salt out of it, but then it's delicious.
Wow.
But again, there's no lye involved.
Right. Oh, come on, Bob. We got to have a little lye in there, don't we?
Yeah, I know. It's like the moon. It's like the moonshine around here. You add a little lighter fluid or iodine for flavor.
Right.
Not a lot, just enough to give it the right taste.
Yes, we'll kind of add a little spice to it.
Yeah, just it just provides a certain piquancy.
Right. Yes, that's right.
But to this day, no grits. To this day, you've never had grits.
Oh, no, I haven't. Never had grits. I've heard about it, of course, but I've just never, I've never been down to that part of the country. I've been out west.
Well,
Seattle, but
I think they're legal in North Dakota. I mean...
Oh, I'm sure they are. But then again, who knows, Bob? we both live in a red state. Jesus, you don't know what the hell's going on here.
Well, I mean, it's illegal to protest terrifying earth-killing pipelines in North Dakota. So you never know.
Oh yeah, well they just had a spill out there in western part of North Dakota here a while ago here, and yeah, that was kind of hush-hush. But then someone finally found out about it, and someone spoke out on it. But, yeah, there's all kinds of shit going on here, Bob. I mean, it's just, oh, my God, you should listen to the local talk radio up here. It's like, oh, my God, it's like you're living in, in a bad episode of Twilight Zone. I mean, these people are so fucked up. They don't know what's up or down, Bob.
I'm sure radio just hasn't been the same since Ed Schultz went to the big city.
Right. Well, he started out down in Fargo. Now, Fargo, Bob, is about an hour's drive south of Grand Forks. And that's where he started. And, actually, he wanted to be a sports announcer. He tried to get the Minnesota Vikings, broadcast. But then that kind of petered out, and then he went into politics. And that's kind of, but I will sort of like give him some credit. But yeah, he was very much kind of a pompous, kind of person, But he did sort of change his ways, and I mean I'll give him credit for that. He kind of changed because his wife.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Everybody credits his wife with bringing him around.
Right. That's what they say anyway. I mean, I only listened to him, but he used to be very much a right winger there down in Fargo.
He tried
for quite a while, and then he started to kind of swing around.
Well, he tried to be another Limbaugh. And then he found out that the market for that was saturated, so he declared himself a gun-toting liberal.
Correct. Yes, very much so. Yes, kind of a conservative light.
And
it
played for a while. I mean, it really, really did.
Oh yes, it did. Oh God, yes. And then he got on MSNBC and all this other stuff, but then he got to, he was nationwide on the radio.
The steel workers poured probably millions of dollars into him.
Millions, yes, exactly. Right. And I really liked your topic there, Bob, right there at the beginning when you were talking about, how much money people have. And all this shit that I'm in agreement actually with Mike Malloy when he says, and I think you've also have mentioned this. Bob, there has to be a point in time. There has to be a limit, isn't there, Bob, for people for how much money they can make? I mean, Jesus, what the hell is one person doing with $1 billion?
Well, see, and part of I think we would see a dramatic change in both society and economy if we did not automatically assume that wealth was divisible or transferable upon death.
Right.
And we would also see a renaissance of creativity. Because the kid that gets the money from the genius parent is never as good. It's kind of like sequels. But if people have to go out and pursue their passions and pursue their dreams, then there's a greater likelihood of the cream rising to the top of the churn.
Right. Well, Bob, it's like the article I read in the Wall Street Journal about 3-4 years ago that said 98.9% of all the wealth in the country is not earned wealth, Bob.
No.
It's all old money, passed on money. That's all it is.
And as a consequence, it actually promotes economic and social stagnation.
Well, right, exactly. Right.
Creative stagnation, yeah.
Yeah, well, not only that, but it only helps the ones that have a good support system that can inherit money. And just, but they don't do anything with it. They just sit on it, and they just lag and whatever they do. I mean, there's so many ne'er-do-wells all over that don't do anything. They're just kind of like waiting around till mom and pop, hit off to the sky, and then they're passed on, all the goodies. And I know one guy back in my hometown. He never worked a day in his life, Bob. And he inherited the family farm and all this money, and he doesn't do anything.
Well, when I think about things like that, I think about that wonderful classic Monty Python sketch, the upper class twit competition. If you've ever seen it.
Yes.
It's what that breeds. And it's
well, certainly. Right.
And it's certainly no good for our future.
No, it isn't.
As Terrace just wrote in and said, maximum income. It's funny, we have a minimum wage, but we don't have a maximum wage.
Right.
What does the CEO of, as Ron and Raleigh mentioned, what does the CEO of Dollar Tree, what business does that person have making $22 million a year?
Exactly. Right. I mean, what exactly are they doing to deserve that kind of money? What exactly are they really doing?
No, well, I mean, if we're gonna throw around words like earned, what are you doing to earn $22 million a year?
Right.
You're damn sure not working as hard as, say, the clerks in the store are.
No, that's right. No, that's right. Yeah, I just don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense. And Bob, I never thought, in our lifetime. Now I'm just a couple years older than you are, Bob. Here's another thing. I remember, Bob, when I got my driver's license back in '77. Hell, I was 16 then. And I remember, Bob, that gas prices up here, gas prices back then, it was around 42 or 43 cents a gallon, Bob, in '77 up here. I remember it as though it were, yesterday.
Oh, I remember 55 cent a gallon gas, and I remember I remember the absolute conniption when it went to $1 a gallon.
Right.
And meanwhile, listeners to the Horn who are in places other than the United States are saying, "Shut up and get off the cross," because
Right. And I remember it as though it were yesterday. And then also, too, what else was I going to say here? I just lost my train of thought here. But I remember it also well. And I also remember the price of food wasn't so crazy. Here's another thing that I remember, Bob. My first year in college in 1980, I was 19 then. In fact, I voted for the first time in my life in 1980. College, now granted, I went to a community college up in the Thief River Falls, Minnesota, and it was only, Bob, back then, $16 per credit, and that was in 1980, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of that falls apart beginning January the 20th, 1981, with the ascension of old 666 himself, Ronald Wilson Reagan, to the presidency. Because everything had to be liquidated, everything had to be capitalized, everything had to be turned into some means by which the ownership class could own us.
Right. Right. No, I mean, God, I remember, and in fact, I even remember this, Bob. My roommate and I, we would go out and go half and half on all the groceries at that time in 1980. And I remember the most we would ever buy would be around $65 to $70 at the most. But, Bob, that food that we bought lasted us for damn near 3 weeks. You know.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember, and you are also right about Ronald Reagan. Yeah, to me, the 80s fucked up everything. It was the start of when things started to really change. Yes.
The rise, you know, and one of the few good things you can say about George H.W. Bush is when he was running in 1980 against Reagan, and Reagan was touting the bullshit of trickle-down economics and the Laffer curve and all of that insane crap. If you recall, Pappy Bush back then called that voodoo economics.
Voodoo, yes, that's right.
Because
that's
it
right.
was,
I remember it.
It was blue smoke and mirrors, and it was 200 proof bullshit. And it still is,
right.
And they're still trying to run the same sorry-ass scam.
Well, it's been going on, Bob, now for almost 40 years of this shit. You know,
and if you
trickle down tax breaks,
and that's that's one of those things where I give Bernie Sanders a great deal of credit, because I think he recognized that we were on the cusp of not being able of losing generationally any cultural memory of a better America.
Right.
And so by calling for affordable, so-called free college, we pay for it with our taxes. It's not free. There's nothing free.
No, that's right.
He was actually hearkening us back to the most successful period in American history, and that is the rise of the middle class economy that was facilitated under the presidency of primarily FDR and Harry Truman, and for which Eisenhower and the do-nothing Congresses of the 50s merely served as caretaker.
Right. Yes.
And so,
yes, very much so.
So there's a young generation now who's saying, wait, you mean it was that way one time, that you could afford to go to college, that you could literally sweep the gym and pay for college and get a decent education and not be $500,000 in debt on graduation day? I want that America.
Right. No, that's right. I think the most debt I had, I was just trying to think here, the most debt I think I had, the last few years, because I transferred after I got done with the community college in '83. I went down to the University of Minnesota down in Twin Cities there, and that was in the fall of '83. And I remember even then, Bob, I believe it was around $43, $45 per credit down at the University of Minnesota.
And remember, there was a time, and Reagan fucked this up too. It's a different date in California than it is for the whole nation. Pre-Reagan, California's educational system was the envy of the nation. And if you wanted to go to a good college and you could get in, it was free.
Free, right. And I believe it was also free. Wasn't it also free like in New York, too, at one time?
Free or very nearly. I mean, the thing is, that's what I mean when I say that we've come very close to losing intergenerational wisdom.
Right.
And so by bringing this, and you never hear that on the for-profit media. Nobody ever says, well, free college, how are we going to pay for it? Well, we did it before. When we had things like high marginal tax rates.
Right.
When we understood that somebody with $22 million is not going to have to start living on canned beanie weenies if they've only got $10 million.
Right.
And that we and that this
the same way with their health.
Yeah, and this is a better country that way. Hey, Kirk, I'm
Right.
awful glad you called, and I'm sorry I was so long getting to you. But I do want to try to get one more call in before the program's out. Don't be such a stranger, all right?
Sure. Yeah, no, I won't, Bob. I'll give you a call again sometime, and I enjoy your show immensely and the Horn family, and we'll talk again.
All right. Thanks a bunch. You take care, Kirk.
You too, Bob. Bye-bye.
Bye now. From the wilds of far North Dakota, and now from there, over to our buddy Thomas, whom we haven't heard from in a while. Thomas?
Yes, I've been busy working stiff at my $12.75 an hour job, which is nowhere near $15 an hour. Thanks, Congress.
Well, whoa, hold on. What do you mean, thanks, Congress? The House did its job. They passed it today.
That's what I mean, thanks, Congress, because we don't have a Senate to do their job.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks for nothing, Mitch.
Yeah.
Thanks for the sour persimmons, brother.
So I'm being correct. You're a little wrong. It's not Reagan's fault. It's Bill Clinton's fault. He granted China most favored nation status, which gave China the ability to properly trade, which gave us these dirt cheap prices, which gave us Walmart selling shitty products, which gave us all this crap that we as Americans love, and we are eating up and shipped our jobs over. It was a Democrat. And now
hold on. I don't just say things here, Thomas.
I know.
Who? This is a trivia question.
Sure.
Who was the head of the United States-China Chamber of Commerce who pushed relentlessly for that permanent most favored nation trading status?
I want to say it was Bush, but I'm probably wrong.
It was Prescott Bush Jr., brother to George H.W. Bush.
How did I know it was a Bush?
Had George H.W. Bush won that election, the same thing would have happened.
No, you're absolutely right.
But the larger shitstorm on a broad cultural basis begins on January the 20th, 1981.
I agree. I agree. But what we have to take into account is the entirety. And I know you like doing this, so that's why I wanted to point that out. Is because our friend Tom Hartman, who is on FYNation.com, sometimes fails to do this because he's one of those well-rounded Democratic people, which we love, but will not blame, Bill Clinton for the Telecommunications Act, but wonders why there aren't enough progressive stations around the country. You have to go to the source of the problem. You have to go to the most moderate.
And it's a unique. I remember waking up the morning after the 1994 midterms. That was the morning I woke up and scratched my head and said, "Wait, who's the new governor of Minnesota? What?"
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura.
Yeah.
And that's also when Gingrich takes over the House, and so Bill Clinton, being a moderate, centrist, corporatist Democrat, even though they hated his guts, he made he made the same mistake Barack Obama made later, thinking that he could work with Republicans who wanted nothing more in the world to see them either dead or in prison.
Exactly. And he thought that because, let's be honest about it, the Clintons were out for their own and only their own. They were never out for the little guy that Bill Clinton talked about or any of that great stuff that our good friend Tom Hartman talks about.
Now, don't make me wag my thumb at you and tell you how wrong you are.
Yeah, wag your thumb.
That thumb, that thumb. 8 years of that thumb.
Where's that thumb been? But I have no problem criticizing Republicans. I do it all the time. But we have to criticize equally. It's right now where Democrats fall down and do not impeach this racist bastard and do not do what they should have done. Fire the guy who did what he said that anybody else would be fired for, and take an actual stand. We have enough to impeach. He should be impeached. I will be on those racist assholes as much as possible.
Thomas, now we understand what's going to happen in the Senate, but do you want even a 1 in a million chance of convicting in the Senate? If you could have a 1 in a million chance of convicting in the Senate, would you want it?
Look,
because right now there's not a 1 in a billion chance of convicting in the Senate.
I know, but what struck me, as much as what the chant did struck me, the part before the chant that everybody's missing. He was gleeful that it got turned down. He's like, look at me, I survived this. Bill Clinton got impeached. He didn't do it. He thinks
it's over.
About
the okay, wait. He doesn't think because he doesn't think.
Well, that's true.
He believes it's over because he's a fucking moron.
Well, yeah.
It is not. It is not over. And when there are final judgments in these subpoena cases, that will be the most rock solid impeachment evidence since, or maybe even including, Nixon.
And I don't necessarily want impeachment right away. I want more people standing up. And the fact that there were so many Democrats that stood with Republicans not to impeach lays into the argument of that some of our progressive friends make. Oh, look at the Democrats and Republicans are exactly the same.
Oh no! Every time I hear that, I want to slap somebody.
I know, and that disturbs me the most. They aren't.
Because these poor people, who some are old enough to know and should know better, some are simply young and don't know better.
Yeah.
When they say that, there's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. They are quoting George fucking Wallace and Strom Thurmond.
Yeah. The biggest racists that you can find.
And it was a strategy that was designed to depress voter turnout.
Exactly.
It is soft voter suppression.
And I don't care how well-meaning the person is, and I have friends who are well-meaning who believe this. Still a bastard. You can for doing it. You can point out the flaws in the Democratic Party, and there are multitudes. Bill Clinton is a big one, but you have to take the nuance which Republicans will never do, and they will just say Joe Biden's a liberal, and I'm like, show me, prove it to me. How is Joe Biden
in what universe?
Yeah, in whose universe?
See, here's the funny thing. I like to play this academic historian parlor game, where we imagine alternate universes and alternate timelines. Try to imagine Joe Biden being in the Senate of the United States when Medicare, just plain old garden variety Medicare, was introduced back in the 1960s. I would bet you donuts to $100 bills that the Joe Biden that was in the United States Senate would have voted against it.
Yes, and the scary and sad part is, because I don't want Donald Trump to be president again, I'll likely vote for that bastard.
Oh, I'm not going to call him a bastard. I will vote.
Oh, I will.
I will. I don't think that's productive, Thomas.
Oh, fair enough.
Because that too serves as a sort of soft voter suppression.
Fair enough. I
will vote for the nominee of my party. If it was Marianne Williamson, I would vote for Marianne Williamson.
I'm not sure I could vote for her. She's too much of an anti-vaxxer.
Well, I get that, but the point is, the Democratic Party is going to not look. Whoever the Democratic Party's nominee is not going to check off every one of your boxes.
Of course. Oh yeah.
So we may as well all get over all of our little butt hurts and just deal with it now and get ready to do the right thing in November 2020.
My biggest qualifier for the Democratic nominee is they need to be able to start right now and stand up. And Bernie is the one who's been doing this for the longest that I've seen. Most of them are, but he has said, and I know it, Donald Trump, you're a racist. Clearly, there's no ambiguity about it.
So has Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
So has Elizabeth Warren. For my purpose, from where I stand, I'm not picking anybody, but having heard the two of them live, I would say that I think we've got a better chance with Elizabeth Warren.
I do too.
Because
honestly.
she connects to an audience, to a constituency, better and more warmly and more congenially than Bernie does. Because Bernie is famously irascible and cranky.
Yes, he's like me. You gotta have a not come across as an asshole all the time, and not everybody is good at that, and he's not one, but it's old and cranky that is not good.
And I'm still, and whether it be Biden or Bernie, I am still concerned about the idea of an octogenarian president. That is that is somewhere that our country has never gone.
Well, I don't know if you saw my Facebook page where I listed the 5, and I'm going to rattle these off the top of my head. But Biden was the last one on the list because hashtag desperation. But my first pick was Bernie, of course, because I've always been very pro-Bernie. Second was Elizabeth Warren. Third was Kamala Harris. And these are primarily just to win, not any, basic policies or any of that, just to win. Kamala Harris, Mayor Pete, and then Joe Biden as the top 5. Because I believe they can sufficiently win and really galvanize the base. And I think the only way we can beat Trump, and that's what it comes down to. Not policy, because as much as we love policy, that's not what it's about. It's beating the tar in an electoral.
It is a matter of saving this country from a full-on descent into fascism.
Exactly.
And of those 5 you just named, I would say Kamala Harris probably has the greatest ability to get in his face and tell him to shut the fuck right up.
Yes.
I wish Jay Inslee was on your list somewhere, because he's probably got more experience and more qualification for the job than anybody else, bar none. Being a member of an elitist, self-referential debating society that does nothing is not that great a recommendation. I speak, of course, of the United States Senate. And Thomas, let me throw. Time is short, but let me throw one thing to you, because I know you know these things matters. A couple of minutes ago, I heard you say Democrat Party.
Democratic Party.
Please don't ever do that again.
I tried very hard not to,
because that comes straight from Newt Gangrene's manual of how to slime the opposition.
Our friend, and you're right, and I will chastise myself for this. Our friend Nicole Sandler, who's on FYNation.com along with you and Tom Hartman and everybody else, kind of cheap plug there. She once hung up on a guest who kept doing it and wouldn't stop.
Yeah, it's like fingernails across a chalkboard to me.
Yeah, and you're right. It's the Democratic Party, and I don't want to be like Rush Limbaugh. But I should let you go in case you got anybody else calling or emails. And thank you for what you do and for the network and everything else. And it's great to actually be able to talk to you for once in a while.
Well, you've been a working stiff too long. I haven't heard from you in forever.
Yeah, well, 1275.
Yeah, whether you need it or not. Wait a minute. Wait, there's a clip for that. Hold on a minute.
Sounds like you need a producer.
Oh, I do. I so do. Give me just a second and I'll have it. There we go.
It's always at your fingertips until it isn't.
There it is. This is one of my favorites. I absolutely love it, and I think you'll see why.
Certainly.
Just talk into the mic, and your voice goes out through the wires, and once a week, whether you need it or not, somebody comes in here and gives you a check for $38.
There you go.
Oh, one more personal plug. The new T-shirts that we made came out for FYNation.com.
Yeah.
You can get them on microbinge.com and in our marketplace, $27 right now, and it goes to help us stay on the air. They're really neat. I don't know if you've seen them. They're over on the Facebook page and FY Nation. Vistaprint did a really good job for them, and they
Wonderful.
came out really neat. And our logo guy is amazing too. But I want to thank you again for everything you do, and contribute to Bob first. He needs it more than I do.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, and don't be a stranger. We'll talk soon, okay?
Definitely.
All right.
Bye,
Later.
friend.
Bye now. And suddenly, miraculously, even somehow, 3 hours of radio have flown past once again. We'll have Friday on the Front Porch tomorrow, and I guess we'll be looking for one of those community-made miracles because we had a fundraising goal of $555 this evening, and we raised precisely $0. So tomorrow is $755, and that's a little sweaty. But we'll just see. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll keep it going as long as we can keep it going. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to all of you who do keep the program going. Thanks to all of you who share in the program in whatever means you so do. Thank you, one and all. Thank you to our all-volunteer staff. Thanks to Sparky and Steve in the chat room earlier. Thank you to our news ninjas. Thank you, Brother Deacon Asa, headon.live. Thank you, John Fox in Australia. Thank you, Ben Birch, whiterosesociety.org. Thanks to the hardest-working, bravest people I know, the men and women of Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. 20 years at the forefront of the struggle for human rights and environmental justice in Appalachia. And go by crmw.net from time to time, just to keep up with what's going on. And by all means, follow them, Coal River Mountain Watch, on Facebook, and at Coal River MTN on Twitter. Do please. It's helpful even when you do that. Okay? Cool. And always, 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 Gina, it's all for you. Later, y'all.